Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird, here to do a special Christmas week comic book review, which is, of course, as always, of the horror variety. And today, I am going to be appropriately talking about the Krampus comic book, which this is a trade paperback taking care of the four stories that I guess there was this, and then they did a comic book for the Trick or Treat movie, both by Michael Dougherty. Fuego and I have talked about these movies numerous times on the channel. We've done both a regular and a spoiler review of Trick or Treat. We've done two different reviews of Krampus, although only one of them is available on the channel. I believe it's available. Yeah, it should be available. And then I did a longer breakdown video, which got hit with copyright issues, so I haven't been able to put it back up. But I'm here to talk about this comic book right here. So this apparently came out around the time of the movie, not surprising, and it is four stories that the first one is written by Zach Shields, or the whole thing, rather, is written by Zach Shields and Todd Casey. It is stories by Todd Casey and Michael Dougherty and Zach Shields. And then the first one is art by Christian DeBari. The second one is art by Man House. The third one is art by Stuart Sager, and the fourth one is art by Michael Montenot. So, four different artists for each of the four different stories, and, they're not so far apart that, it's extraordinarily distracting switching from artist to artist. However, while they might be in a similar style, unfortunately, there is a drastic quality difference between at least one of them and the rest, so that was a bit of a bummer. But overall, this was an okay addition to the Krampus mythos. It's basically three different stories of people that run afoul of Krampus on a Christmas Eve, and Krampus and his minions, I should say. And what ends up being kind of interesting is that those three tales intersect in the fourth tale, and characters from each of the first three stories, which seemed to be independent of one another, actually come together, just like his Trick or Treat movie did. So he did sort of an anthology that came together at the end in the movie Trick or Treat. I'm guessing probably a similar thing in his Trick or Treat comic that I just showed you. But this one was, the same thing. It was an anthology where the different characters came together in the fourth story, which unfortunately was drastically underwhelming for me. This whole thing was really underwhelming. While there were a couple of interesting ideas, it was just executed very poorly and uninterestingly, and even though it was very quick to read through, it was a bit of a trudge. But if you do like Krampus from the new movie, it is worth getting your hands on because I believe you can get it cheap if you just go to Bookman's or anything like that where you can get used books for on the cheap. That is a good place to get this. I think Fuego got it from Zia Records, so that's not surprising at all. But when Krampus does show up, it's a powerful and scary thing in this book, which is what it needs to be. Mostly, it's Krampus's minions going after people, the stuffed animals, the jesters, the snake creatures, everything and anything gets drawn into this, especially the elves, which actually are played up more so in this than they are in the actual movie itself, but they weren't any more intimidating or anything. In fact, possibly less so. So that was just kind of okay, but Krampus himself is depicted really cool. You never really see what his face looks like. Even on the cover, you can tell. The point is to kind of cover his face. You can see his teeth and stuff, but you don't really see the old man visage in this. So you can imagine something else, which is what I tend to do because the old man thing is only so scary. But so the first story is about a mall Santa that has gotten this job, but he drinks every day, and the only reason he has gotten fired is because he's the only guy that showed up for the job, and so he's a bare minimum kind of guy, and he unfortunately runs afoul of Krampus's creatures and eventually Krampus himself. But it is an interesting sort of dark situation. Hang on, let me go back and So you can kind of see here, that's what the artwork looks like on this first story. And, you know, Santa is left in charge of some kids during the crisis, and then he ends up having to fight, but he gets, you know, he gets his ass handed to him early on here for being a drunk at a, you know, Santa's workshop kind of thing. So that's pretty fun. And then, of course, there's the stuff, you know, towards the end where there's the actual fighting and whatnot. And that story is just kind of okay. You know, not everyone survives, which is nice. So there's a bit of a blowback. But yeah, see, that's you know, Krampus. That's a really cool splash page right there. That's why it's up in the side over here. Krampus facing down Santa Claus. That's pretty freaking dope right there. I think that's an awesome page. So, you know, there's some worthwhile avenues on this, but not all of it. Now, the second episode is, or story in this, is about a cop whose sister or daughter, no, sister, I believe, has gotten killed in a hit and run, and she never found out who did it or anything, and she's just had to deal with the disappointment of not knowing what exactly happened. And then she's driving along, and one night she almost hits this guy in the middle of the road, who jumps in the car and ends up helping her for a little while try and track down the person holding her sister based on the little bit of info that she provided him. And they try to, but she doesn't really trust him, and things don't go the way either of them want, and they do run afoul, of course, of Krampus and his minions. And then the third story is, well, hang on, let me show you the artwork in the second story just so you can see. I showed you that part, but so you can see here there is you know, one of the creatures from the movie, and that's the guy right there, and the cop, and you know, it's very competent, very good artwork. I love the artwork in the first two issues, first two stories of this. Here's another good one. See, facing down all the little elves of Krampus. But yeah, so unfortunately, the third story, just came off as a bit of a mess. I mean, look at some of the facial expressions and drawings. Like, I think this one here is ridiculously weird, and then you got this guy over here, and it's just, I get that it's a style maybe they're going for, but I think it's very ill-suited for this particular property, so not super happy about that at all. But you know, there's a couple of other surprises and stuff like that. This isn't really a spoiler, but this is just something that you can see. You know, you have something reaching out from something you're looking at. You have a massive teddy bear waiting here to attack you. So there's just a lot of interesting things, even though the story leaves a lot to be desired. So, alright guys, well that's going to do it for my review of Krampus, the Shadow of St. Nicholas comic book. Right here. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it a lot of places. I suggest the used bookstores first because it's just not that great, but it is appropriate for this time of year. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if you like Krampus. Are you interested in reading this, or do you just not care? Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared.